everybody. I'm Christina from Big Beautiful Sky. Welcome. We are going to talk about the astrology of 2025 from March to November specifically, because that's when I think the most transformative astrology takes place this year. And because March is the official beginning of the astrological new year. And it's a month with 2 eclipses. So by the time you get to April, don't be surprised if your life feels different, if it looks different, if it dramatically changes. There's big energy incoming. And over the next 6 months, massive changes are taking place. The outer planets are moving into new signs. There's a really supportive trine between Uranus and Pluto. And then there's a Saturn-Neptune almost conjunction, which is also sextiling Pluto and Uranus. So it's a really interesting time. It's a time period that I don't think we've ever seen in the span of, I don't know, human history. In terms of astrology, we really haven't seen this before. And it's a time period a French astrologer coined. His name was Andre Barbault. He coined it as a great relaunch. Now, I think it is a relaunch, but I don't think it's going to be a walk in the park. I don't think it's going to be easy. And I don't think we're just going to wake up one day and be in a utopia. So I'm going to talk about why, and I'm going to talk about what's going to happen because I want you to feel supported. There's a lot of change. And what happens when there is a lot of change and change comes fast and furious is people can become very anxious. It can be very unsettling. It can feel very scary. So I want to make sure you feel supported. I want you to make sure your mental health is also being taken care of by you, or, if you have a therapist or a support person. I also want to make sure you are eating healthy and exercising and taking care of your body. So there's going to be a lot going on with you and your personal life, with, what's happening out in the collective. Please make sure you are taking care of yourself. Reach out to me, reach out to your support people, but put yourself first. Prioritize yourself and your health. And make sure that when all of this change is happening, you're looking at your chart and you're paying attention to what houses these outer planets are moving into, if they're aspecting other planets. Collectively, things are going to manifest very quickly, and it's going to definitely have an effect on you personally. I don't see how it couldn't. Everyone will be affected. So by the time we reach November this year, it's like the way to best describe it is I feel like there's all this energy building up, and the eclipses are going to open up this timeline, open up this portal, and this new energy is just going to rush in. I feel like for the past few months, we've just been dealing with this old sort of zombie-like energy from, Pluto and Capricorn and whatnot. And now this new energy is ready to come in, and it's going to come in fast, and it's going to come in big. So buckle up. I'm going to take you through a presentation. So I'm going to share my screen. The astrology of 2025 from March, the eclipses, to November with Pluto out of balance. And I think the reason I chose this time period, like I said, is the energy is just going to rush in after these eclipses. Yes, we have some retrogrades, but still it's coming in. But the planets, the outer planets, will start to go retrograde towards September, October, November. So that energy is going to kind of go backwards to review and reflect before it comes rushing back in again in 2026. So I think there's a revolution brewing, and that's really going to kick off more towards the end of the year, September and October and November. So we'll dive into why, but very exciting time. So exciting. All right, here are some key dates for 2025. Lots happening. The eclipse is in March, plus Neptune is entering Aries in March on the 30th at the end of the month. We have the third and final Mars-Pluto opposition in April. If you remember, that happened, the first one happened right before the election in 2024 at the beginning of this year, around the time of the fires in LA. So this is not a transit that you should ignore. Saturn will enter Aries in May. Jupiter enters Cancer in June. Then we have the third and final Jupiter-Saturn square in June as well. That in 2024 was associated with, I'm trying to think back. The main event I saw was the Trump campaign. RFK Jr. Ended his campaign and joined Trump. And then it happened again in December. And that's when, Elon really took the lead in Doge. And we started to see very clearly how things were going to play out with Elon. So I'm expecting this Jupiter Saturn square, the third and final one. We're going to see things happen to the Trump and his crew, I assume, in June specifically. Uranus will enter Gemini in July. And then we have a really beautiful configuration. Uranus, Neptune, Saturn, and Pluto all hit 1 degree in Gemini, Aries, and Aquarius from August 21st to September 15th. Pluto goes out of bounds from August 29th. And then we have the next round of eclipses in September. So the energy from the March eclipses to the September eclipses is very poignant and powerful. So I really want you to pay attention to how this energy is going to manifest for you. And I'll talk a bit about how it's going to manifest collectively. I don't want anything to surprise you. I'm trying to give you a heads up. All right, so okay, let's talk about the lunar eclipse in March on the 14th. So like I said, these eclipses are going to usher in new energy. So they're portals into new timelines. Doors are going to open, doors are going to close. People, places, and things get eclipsed. They disappear. New people pop up. New things and new opportunities pop up. I love eclipse season because it's so wild and you just never know what's going to happen. And like I said, right now it still feels like we're dealing with the effects of last year with these like Pluto and Capricorn zombies, but that's all about to end. New energy is going to flood the dam and the dam is just going to burst. So on March 12th, in just a couple of days, the sun will conjunct Saturn and Pisces, and that energy is going to bleed into this lunar eclipse. And the lunar eclipse is at Virgo at 23 degrees. So in 2 days later, after the sun conjunct Saturn, this eclipse is the first eclipse in the Pisces Virgo nodal axis. So that shifted in January on the 11th. And it's an interesting lunar eclipse because it's a south node eclipse. So it's about getting rid of. The moon during this eclipse really feels conflicted. It's getting a trine and a boost from Uranus at 24 degrees Taurus, but it's also being opposed by Saturn at 22 degrees Pisces. So it's like it wants to kind of have fun and get wild, but Saturn's like, no, you've got work to do. You need to clean and clear some things out of your life. So with Virgo here, I want you to pay attention to what house Virgo is in your chart, because that's what needs to have special attention right now. That needs to be cleaned and clear. You need to literally, metaphorically, energetically take out the trash, the game's up, put your head down and do what you need to do. Because what needs to happen is we're clearing space for new energy to come in. So the more you can clean and clear out, the more space you will have to receive the new. It's a good thing. We're also, Mercury is also going retrograde the very next day, right after the eclipse. And Virgo is ruled by Mercury. So it's just, this energy is very scrambled. Instead of taking on new ambitious projects, perhaps just focus on reviewing and cleaning and clearing. Nothing like a good house clean, okay? With Mercury retrograde, back up your computer, double check the calendar, make sure your flights are on time, all those things. But Mercury retrograde doesn't stress me out too much. I just see it as a time to review and reflect, which is fine by me. So on the 19th, right after the eclipse, the sun will conjunct Neptune in Pisces. And then on the 20th, it's into Aries, which is the spring equinox and the official beginning of the astrological new year. So that happens right between eclipses, which is so interesting to me because it's like we've crossed the threshold, but we're not to the other side yet. And the sun is going to conjunct retrograde Venus in Aries on the 22nd and then retrograde Mercury on the 24th. So on the 27th, a retrograde Venus, it goes back into Pisces to conjunct Neptune at 29 degrees. So again, it's like this energy is going back and we're back into this like delusional illusion land of Pisces, sort of swimming around, trying to find our bearings. And then 2 days later, that's when we get the second eclipse. So the solar eclipse is at 8 degrees of Aries. It's from the old nodal axis. And this Aries-Libra nodal axis was really interesting. I blame it for the Israeli-Palestine conflict. That really started to kick off and amp up um, those issues in Palestine and Israel. And my heart goes out to everyone who's been affected and everyone who has been involved. And as soon as the nodal axis shifted into Pisces Virgo, that really settled down. And I'm hoping that a peace deal is struck and, people are taken care of. We need to start putting humanity and humans first. So this solar eclipse is a big one. Okay, I'm not going to lie. It's power packed. It's in Aries. It's a fresh start. It's like new, wild, volatile, Mars ruled, crazy energy. So it's like during during the lunar eclipse, South Node, Virgo, clean and clear, right? Get some stuff done, get things packing, because this Aries eclipse is ushering like in some wild and crazy new energy for you. And you're going to have a lot of support to start initiating new projects very soon. The other thing to take note of is that the Pisces and Aries are very different energies. So there's a lot of planets in Pisces and there's a lot of energy in Aries. They're very diametrically opposed. So it's going to feel, this March is going to feel very conflicted. You're like, do I stay in the Piscean fog? Do I jump, through the fiery ring into Pisces, into Aries? It's just like, the energy's there. You want to start, but maybe not quite yet. And that's okay. The other thing about the solar eclipse that's really interesting, there's like this quintuple conjunction. So Saturn's at 24 degrees Pisces, the North Node's at 26, retrograde Venus is at 28, and Neptune's at 29. There's also retrograde Mercury at 0 degrees Aries in there. So all the planets are kind of lined up in these energies, again, diametrically opposed. But when I look at this energy, what I see is it's time to put your dreams into action. So Pisces is the dream, it's the vision, right? And Aries is you just do the thing, just do it. So it really is time to put pedal to the metal and go. But, like all things, use caution. And I think after this eclipse, the energetic terrain is going to look very different. Anything that's been hanging around since the last round of eclipses back in 2023, 2024, it's ready to go. It's packing. It's like return to sender, and we're getting a very new, fresh start, which is exciting. The other thing is right after the solar eclipse on March 29th, Neptune ingresses into Aries on the 30th, which hasn't happened since 1861. So spirituality, creativity, all things cultural and zeitgeist will get a completely different revamp. It will be wild to watch. I can't wait. So one of the things I wanted to talk about in terms of the collective, these eclipses in Pisces and Virgo, one of the themes I see playing out is a recession cycle. I see Pisces as the secret sign of billionaires. If you look up billionaires, you will find a fair share of billionaires who have their sun in Pisces. It's kind of a sneaky one. And that most people think of Pisceans as these like checked out sort of spiritual, fairies living in la la land, but actually they can be quite savvy. And what they're very good at is creating a vision. Because what makes a company or a business really successful is an amazing vision that everyone can get behind. And that's something that's really important right now. So with everything moving into fire and air signs, into these sort of action-oriented masculine signs, with the North Node in Pisces, it really is about creating the most magnificent vision and dream for your life that you possibly can so that you can action it. So use this opportunity right now and create that dream, create that vision, and get ready to create it. So with the nodes in Pisces and Virgo and this Piscean sort of expansive sort of billionaire vibe, remember Pisces is ruled by two planets. It's ruled by Jupiter and Neptune. So it's like this limitless, expansive, like never enough. So when I look at billionaires, I think it's just never enough for them. And we see this very, again, opposed energy of this expansive sort of billionaire class that just wants more and more and more. And this sort of South Node Virgo, the worker, right? People who are of service just being smushed. And so I started to map out recession cycles in the US and I was like, what's this, manifesting this Pisces Virgo axis? What's manifesting here? Because the last time we had the Pisces Virgo axis was the global financial crisis in 2007, right? The working class represented by Virgo gets squashed. I mean, a lot of people refer to the GFC as a wealth transfer. These banks, they hedged, all the stuff. And then instead of going bankrupt or letting them fail, the government bailed them out. So, rich people just got richer. And, again, in 1989, there was another recession during the Pisces Virgo eclipses. And then in 1969, 1970, another recession. So this Pisces Virgo axis tends to play out a working class sort of, it's not great for the working class, but it is somewhat, with recessions, people make a lot of money. It's not like it's a depression, it's just a recession. It's a good buying opportunity for people who have assets and people who have cash on hand. So just keep that in mind. And don't be shocked if the US economy isn't doing what it was said by some it would do with this new administration. The other thing I want to talk about that's happening in the collective is this World War II inversion, right? So Pluto's at 2 degrees Aquarius. This is the chart for World War II. World War II started on September 1st, 1939 at 4:45 a.m. in Poland when Germany invaded Poland. So I pulled this chart and looked at it against the new moon in February on the 27th of 2025. And there are several themes playing out. You will see that Uranus is conjunct Uranus, Pluto is square Saturn, Neptune is opposite Neptune, and Mars is opposite Mars, right? We've also, with Pluto at 2 degrees Aquarius, it's opposite Pluto at 2 degrees Leo. So it's almost like right now, because there's all these, there's a lot of World War II, I don't know how to say it. There's a lot of things bubbling up into the zeitgeist, into the collective from World War II. We're seeing a repetition of themes, but an inversion, right? America during World War II was the hero. With Pluto in Leo, America became the greatest superpower the world has ever seen. It created the greatest middle class the world has ever seen. Pluto in Leo truly was a golden age for America. The other thing that you have to remember is that during this period with Pluto in Leo, FDR created the New Deal because before World War II, we were still dealing with the Great Depression and the economy was horrific and poverty was widespread. So he created the New Deal to lift people out of poverty and to address the issues created by the Great Depression. So without the New Deal and without World War II, the largest middle class that the world has ever seen would not have happened. Okay. And right now, what we're seeing with these Pisces Virgo eclipses and the suppression of the working class and this inversion of World War II is what we're really seeing is the destruction of the American middle class, right? We need government regulation or capitalism runs roughshod over workers and the poor. All right. Without government being equitable, without government supporting people, without us all working together, we end up living in a third world country with two classes, rich and poor. We need a middle class. To be a healthy society, we need to support the middle class. So what we are seeing right now is not a golden age. It's a very, very hard time for a lot of people. That does not mean it has to personally affect you. You can manifest and create whatever you want. I'm just saying that there is a lot of propaganda being put out right now that is gaslighting people that I do not like. And the astrology tells a story that is the exact opposite of whatever is being fed to the masses. So the other thing that's really interesting about this World War II inversion is this new arms race we're going through. It's like this, instead of the Manhattan Project, and the rush to develop the first nuclear bomb, it's about AI, right? China versus the US and this development of AI. And it's the same theme of this like mutually assured destruction. Like we need to work together. We need to figure this out. We need to share. And there's also this push, ironically, that we need more nuclear power to power these data centers that will, run the AI. So it's very, very interesting. So if we look at the US chart, I pulled 3 charts for the US. I don't use the Sibley chart. I think the Sibley chart is incorrect. I don't care what every astrologer says about 9/11 on the ascendant. I use a 2 p.m. time on July 4th because I've done historical research, and there are other astrologers who also use this time. So if you look at a few key dates, World War II being one of them, with Pluto opposite, Pluto in Leo, and also right now, what's going on. I don't think we're in a golden age at all. I think we're in an American dark age. We've just come out of a Pluto return, which was very difficult for the United States. We're also gearing up with Pluto in Aquarius for Pluto to conjunct the South Node, which I call the karmic colonic. So this is not a golden age for America, but rather a period of tremendous upheaval and an unraveling of the bureaucracies and institutions that were created after World War II. So there's this tech bro out there, Curtis Yarvin. I'm sure you've heard his name thrown around. And he created this ideology called the Dark Enlightenment, which is really ironic because the last time Pluto was in Aquarius was during the Enlightenment, which was this, you saw the rise of reason, the age, it was a scientific era, right? It was the Industrial Revolution. For some reason, now it's become this like age of the tech plutocrat who their fortunes have multiplied during Pluto and Capricorn, and now they're trying to install this like authoritarian government, and they want to control us with AI and compete with China for global dominance. It's like, what? It's really not about the individual or humanity at all. It's more power for the plutocrats. So I don't see a golden age. I see a very difficult time that will result in rebellion and revolution. You have to remember, after World War II, when Pluto was in Leo, the US experienced this period of like rapid economic growth during the 1950s. And that is coined as the golden age of capitalism. We were also sharing with each other during that time period, which was great. And that era was marked by, low unemployment, high consumer spending, and a strong demand for goods and services. And right now, with Pluto and Aquarius opposite the Pluto in Leo, it's like globalization is just being destroyed, taken apart. And after World War II, that globalization was created. So we're seeing this unraveling happening. And I don't see the United States staying the number one superpower. We're either going to have to share with China, or China is going to overpower us, or it's going to be split between certain superpowers. I don't know. But, this new American Golden Age is not coming right now. Between 1945 and 1960, when Pluto was in Leo, the gross national product more than doubled. It went from 200 billion to 500 billion. And, most of that increase came from government spending, right? So right now we're trying to reduce government spending. During that era, they constructed the interstate highway system. Their veterans were given, significant benefits to buy homes. There was an increase in military spending that resulted in, airplanes and new technologies like computers being created. So we're seeing the exact opposite of that happening. So I do not know how people are going to recreate a golden age if they're doing the exact opposite of what they did to create the last one. Unemployment was low, inflation was low, wages were very high. Middle class people had more money to spend than ever. They had, a variety and availability of consumer goods that were made in America. And the corporate tax rate in 1955 was 50% versus what it is today at 25%. So it's the total reverse of this. This golden age is just being unwound. So I'm calling it the American Dark Ages, but you can call it whatever you want. Just don't believe that it's going to be this utopia that is coming. It is going to be it will be a utopia, but you have got to create your own in your own life. Okay, so let's talk about Trump's astrology over the next few months. Back in 2024, on July 13th, there was an assassination attempt in Butler, Pennsylvania. So Uranus is traveling back to the assassination point right now because it was retrograde, it's gone direct. So it will hit 26 degrees of Taurus at the end of April on the 29th. And it will be square his Mars in the 12th house at 26 degrees Leo. And that's what created that first assassination attempt. And I'm concerned about Trump and his safety during April, May, and June. He has a few things going on in his chart, but the main one is Uranus, and then the second one is Mars. So Uranus will conjunct his MC in a couple days on the 13th, right before the lunar eclipse. So he will be front and center during these eclipses. I'll be very curious to see what goes down. And then that, your Uranus will shift into 26 degrees square his Mars. That's the assassination energy coming back. The other thing to remember is that he picked JD Vance as his running mate, I think 2 days after the 13th of July. I think it was the 15th. So JD is wrapped up in this assassination energy as well. And the thing that's really wild is if you look at Trump and Vance and you look at their charts, Trump has Pluto at 10 degrees Leo. JD has his sun at 10 degrees Leo. Both are in the 12th house. Mars is now direct, and it will conjunct Trump's Pluto and JD's sun on May 10th, 2025. This is really interesting. Now, Mars will conjunct JD's sun, and Mars will also square his Saturn. Now, Saturn square his sun to me points to his various fathers he's had across his lifetime. I mean, he's had a couple different fathers, biological step parents. He's changed his last name, I think 3 times. There's an interesting dynamic going on with dad. And I feel like this Mars, Sun, Saturn square conjunction transit is going to trigger some issues around dad for him psychologically, but it could also manifest as issues with Trump. Because they share a Sun Pluto degree and sign and house placement. These two have been together before. There is a very karmic connection between JD Vance and Donald Trump. I have not opened up the Akashic records to look and see what that's all about, but it's almost like JD is his heir apparent, but they don't get along at all. There are power dynamics and power issues at play. JD wants to be in charge. He does not want Donald Trump above him or telling him what to do or in the Oval Office. He wants to be in the Oval Office. I don't know if Trump is aware of this, but it feels very A2 Brutus. Let's just put it that way. So stay tuned for May the 10th and stay safe around that date. Oh, please note too, the 12th house is the house of hidden enemies. So I would not be surprised if Trump is not aware of JD's very ambitious plans to become president at some point. All right, let's talk about the relaunch. We'll talk about good things, okay? So there's a lot happening with the outer planets, and Andre Barbault has coined this as like this grand relaunch of civilization. Uranus is moving into Gemini, Neptune into Aries, and Pluto in Aquarius. So there's going to be this beautiful little triangle of technological leaps forward in this up-leveling of human consciousness. Do I think it's going to be, we wake up and are like, oh, it's all easy and wonderful? No, but it's going to be really interesting to see how it plays out. So this first alignment occurs on August 21st. Uranus, Neptune, Saturn, and Pluto are all interacting with each other in a very positive way. This alignment lasts for 26 days from the 21st of August to September 15th. And, Saturn and Neptune are also almost directly conjunct, but that doesn't happen until February in 2026 when they meet at 0 degrees of Aries. So, one thing you have to remember, and while I do think this is a relaunch, this is also another chapter in the Uranus-Pluto cycle, okay? The cycle started in 1965, 1966, when Uranus and Pluto were conjunct in Virgo. Now they're going to be trining each other, right? Which is supportive. It's not the square, which creates more conflict. It's a trine. But it's also a continuation of the energy that was going on during the 1960s. That was not an easy time period. There were upheavals, there were uprisings, there was the civil rights movement, the women's rights movement. There were several, assassinations that occurred during that decade. So don't be surprised if those themes start to bubble up, especially with Pluto and Aquarius. Again, it's like a repeat of the same theme because Uranus is ruled by Pluto is being influenced by Uranus in Aquarius as well. So, yes, I think we will start to see people uprising and pushing back, but there's energy there to support them, which I'm very excited about. But ultimately, when we look at these outer planets, their alignment, yes, human consciousness is going to be expanded and up-leveled, but that's going to coincide with this massive technological advancement. I mean, all three of these, Gemini, Aries, and Aquarius, those are all very technological signs. And so with these outer planets moving into those signs, you're going to see such rapid developments in AI. I mean, I would not be surprised if we hit singularity or, AGI in this year or next, very, very soon. It's also saying, traditional religion, I believe, will also get either left behind or evolved. We could start to see this really beautiful blending of science and spirituality, but religion, belief systems, the way we see ourselves in the cosmos, in this reality, is going to shift and change. And I don't see traditional religions really meeting us where we need to be met in terms of consciousness, in terms of spirituality. I would not be surprised if new religions are created. We could start to worship technology and AI, or we could go another direction. I'm not sure how it's going to play out, but I'm really interested to see what does happen. But one thing I know for sure is that we really need to take charge of this energy. Like AI, the way we use this energy, it can either benefit us or not. So we need to say, look, this is the life I want. This is the person I am. This is the future I want to create, and start taking action and start making decisions that support that future, that reality. So get clear on what you want and what you want to create, and make sure that you understand that your life matters, that what things that you do matter, how you interact with other people matters. Everything matters, right? Never doubt the impact one person can have. Never doubt the impact that you can have. So this is a really beautiful time to start mapping that out. And like I said, to really focus on the vision that you want to create, and to start taking steps enacting that. Okay, so here's the outer planet ingresses again. So the reason I'm talking about March to about November is because the planets are ingressing into new signs, and then they're going to start to go retrograde. So we won't see them, except for Jupiter, stay in their new signs for the whole year. They're going to start going back, and we're going to start reviewing. That starts to happen September. Saturn starts to go retrograde. It'll go back into Pisces. Jupiter moving into Cancer is really beautiful energy. It's exalted in Cancer. It's going to feel like a nice balmy retreat. We'll also have the North Node in Pisces, where we can also retreat to if we need to, because all these planets are moving into fire and air, which is very masculine, action orientated, do go signs, and it feels a bit exhausting and overwhelming. So with Jupiter in Cancer, people are going to be focusing on home, on healing, making like beautiful, special retreats for themselves and others. So I look forward to that. And with Uranus moving into Gemini, that really does sort of bring up this new arms race, this AI arms race, only because the US is having, its Uranus return at 8 degrees Gemini over the next couple years. And historically, that has always been associated with a war. So I assume in the next couple years, the AI arms race will really heat up. So just be aware of that, but don't be scared. All right, so before I wrap up, I want to talk about the September eclipses and Pluto going out of bounds. Pluto will go out of bounds in August, right before the eclipses. And I think by the time we get to September, we're really going to start to see people wanting a different reality. Right now, we're just being, totalitarianism is like just rushing in, it feels like we're just being almost like stomped on by this oppressive energy. And that really doesn't benefit us, and it really doesn't benefit humanity, and it really doesn't benefit, the evolution of consciousness at all. We need freedom and we need free will in order to live healthy, happy lives. So I don't know about you, but I don't want to live in a technocracy or an AI controlled sort of tracked and trace. Nothing is private. I'm just an eater reality. So I'm going to start pushing back against this, and you can join me. But the lunar eclipse is on September 7th. The solar eclipse in Virgo is on September 21st. So again, the portal is opening. And I think on the other side of that is when we start to see the revolution take place. There's a really amazing astrologer named Rosie Finn, and she practices Western and Vedic astrology. And she has just written a book, and she talks all about Pluto going out of bounds. And she's traced this through history, but between 2025 and 2035, Pluto will go out of bounds to the south for the last time for the next few thousand years. So it's a big deal. The next decade is really interesting. She's mapped this, Pluto out of bounds to the south through history. And she says that history tells us that a redemption, a revolution, a mass awakening of consciousness becomes not only possible, but likely in the time ahead. Because Pluto is out of bounds to the south, this signifies a time of revolution, reformation, internal combustion, and a rise in power to the people. So when Pluto moves out of bounds to the north, that supported tyrants, empire builders, and war ravaging the planet, as if Pluto's underworld realm was unfurling before us like a zombie apocalypse. That happened during World War II. And that's another, sort of indicator that we're seeing this inversion of World War II, this unraveling of World War II, this unraveling of this way of living, under the boot of tyrants. She says when Pluto transits out of bounds to the south, instead of tyrants, we see the people rise up through revolts, rebellions, chaos, implosions, collapse, and shifts that move from the internal to the external. The last time Pluto was out of bounds south side was 1775 to 1796. In 1775, rebels in the colonies took out their muskets and mounted a revolution against the British Empire. So something to remember. Also with Pluto and Aquarius, that's another little boost of energy we get to push back. When Pluto peaked in 1783, the war officially ended with the Treaty of Paris, calling a truce between the largest empire on the planet, England, and a group of visionaries who started a new nation with a new constitution, America. So the Constitution, we're also going to have a return to the creation of the Constitution with Pluto and Aquarius as well, which is exciting. But Rosie Finn says, 6 years later in Paris, France, rebels stormed the Bastille, starting a time of terror and chaos in France. Finally, as Pluto left its out-of-bounds journey in 1794, one of the leaders of the rebellion, Robespierre, was executed, ending the reign of terror. In her book, it's called Persephone's Revolution. She outlines 5 possible futures for this last Pluto out of bounds period. She says there's collapse, there's revolution, there's nonviolent demonstrations, benevolent rulers, and then a scientific paradigm shift and an awakening. And she maps out the places that these are most likely to occur. I haven't read her book yet, but I really want to, and I will. So according to Rosie, right now, what was happening sort of towards the end of the Roman Empire it's happening right now. She says, we are in the time of Nero, crazed despots out of control, a feeling of impending doom, and a weird undertone to politics. So during the end of the Roman Empire, when Pluto was out of bounds to the south, there were 4 emperors in 1 year, revolts in 70 CE in Judea, and revolts in the British Isles led by Boudica. These rebellions did not go well. They were quashed by the Roman army, but Vespasian, much like many of the general presidents of the US, like Grant and Eisenhower, turned his attention inward towards infrastructure, including building the Colosseum over Nero's old gardens. So she says, while despots seem to be getting their way at this moment, there are revolts on the horizon and hopefully new leaders. So while it may seem very overwhelming, hopeless, scary, terrifying, these things have to come to an end for new energy, new leaders, new possibilities to emerge. So wrapping up, I see the major themes for 2025, similar to what Charles Dickens said in his novel, Tale of Two Cities, which was about the French Revolution. It was the best of times and the worst of times. I think 2025, 2026, and 2027 will be very extreme, very hard, but also really wonderful and amazing opportunities for you to create a new life. First, to create a new vision, and then to create a new life. So expect sudden changes and transformations for yourself personally and collectively, uprisings and rebellions across many countries and parts of the world, rapid technological advancement and AI implementation, a new global world order. So we're seeing the end of the World War II system, and new currencies, new media, education, new warfare, communication systems, business, and healthcare. I'm really excited about AI and healthcare. I think that will be a great thing. We do need a new way to stay healthy. I don't want a chip in my brain, but I do want new ways to unlock and uncover disease eradication and new ways to track health and to ensure better health outcomes for people. So I am very optimistic in some areas. I am also very cynical and pessimistic in other areas. I think it's important to remember with all things astrological, the level of consciousness of the people involved is always paramount and always important. So even though we have this amazing opportunity with this outer planet alignment, right now we have people in control that might not have a high level of consciousness, and to be wary of the promises they make, and to be sure to look for new leaders who are emerging, who do want the best for humanity and the best for all people. And I encourage you to take care of yourself, take care of your family, support yourself emotionally, reach out for support if you do need help with mental health. I'm here, or anyone else. Just please make sure you're supporting yourself. And like all things, this too shall pass. And if you look back through history, people have survived, incredible challenges. Look what our grandparents went through with World War II. They lived to tell another tale. So don't give up hope, but also don't escape into the Piscean delusion of thinking it's all going to be a cakewalk and easy. It will require work. It will require discipline. It will require you to overcome challenges. But, it feels good after you have overcome a challenge to look back and say, wow, look what I did. That's amazing. So exciting times ahead. I will end the share screen. Right. Thanks so much. That's a wrap, guys. I'm really excited about 2025. I hope you are too. I just wanted to put some things on your radar that might be challenging to make sure you aren't being gaslit. And please reach out. I'm here for you. My site is bigbeautifulsky.com. You can book a session with me there. And until next time, wish you all the best. Bye.